What is going on, guys? So in today's video we are talking about the language. What language do they speak here, and what language should you know if you decide to come here and to figure it out? And so this is generally a complex issue, okay? And I'm here in Kiev and I can tell you de facto how it is and what you should expect. And so this is what we're going to be talking about. So the first thing you have to understand is that officially the language is Ukrainian. That is the official language. That is what everything is done with the government. That is what, if you open Wikipedia and you want to know the official language, it's going to be Ukrainian. But it's a little bit more complicated on the ground. And so let's talk about the capital, Kiev, right? I'm here in Kiev. I've been living here for 5 years. I'm originally from Ukraine as well. And in Kiev, if you would, ask somebody what is the official language in Kiev, that answer would be Russian. The official language here is Russian. That is really, kind of what it is. That is what the native people here speak. That is their official language. That is what they speak at home. Now, if somebody came from another part of the country, which is something I'm going to get to in a second, that situation will be different and the answer is going to be Ukrainian. But if the person is originally from here, was born here, 99%, they speak Russian at home. And so that is the situation. Now, outside the capital, things get a little bit more complicated, all right? So let's talk about that. In the eastern part of the country, predominantly, the more east you go, the more Russian is spoken. So places like, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, anything pretty much east of Kiev. If we are talking about bigger cities, they're going to be speaking Russian predominantly. In the smaller areas, in the little cities, the villages, things like that, it's going to be more Ukrainian. Chances are, but still, the more east you go, the more it's going to be Russian speaking. That is something you have to understand. Now, south. The more south you go, same thing. That's why there's the Russian-speaking areas predominantly in the south and in the east of the country. That's what they call it. Southeast is kind of Russian-speaking, and that's the situation. They're going to be mainly speaking Russian. In a city like Odessa, they speak Russian. Now, if somebody, came to Odessa, they moved to Odessa from a smaller city, from another part of the country, they're not originally from there, chances are, in that case, they are going to be speaking Ukrainian as opposed to Russian. But that's the thing about the south and the east. They're mainly Russian speaking, especially in the bigger cities. Now, let's talk about the west. The west, this is how it works. As you start driving towards the west from Kiev to the main cities in the western part, it's going to be more and more Ukrainian. That's kind of the situation. So one of the nicer cities here in Ukraine, Lviv or Lvov, depending on how you call it, is predominantly Ukrainian speaking. In fact, they all understand Russian, but their main language is Ukrainian. But they're all bilingual. And that is the situation for the majority of the country. The countries, everybody here is bilingual. But the more west you go, the more people are going to be speaking Russian with an accent, if they're even going to be speaking it at all. That's the thing. They might not even be speaking it. Because when I visited Ternopil, which is a city in the western Ukraine, but it's not that west, that it's near Lvov, the majority of the people speaking there, everybody was Ukrainian, but they were even speaking Russian with a little bit of a Ukrainian accent. And so that tells you that predominantly that's what they speak. They mainly speak Ukrainian there, right? But still, I still ran into some people that were speaking Russian here and there, but they were speaking Russian with a heavy Ukrainian accent. And then you go to a place like Lvov, you go further to the country, to the west of the country, you are going to be met with people that are going to be mainly speaking Ukrainian, right? Predominantly, that's kind of the situation. So that is something you have to keep in mind. And so what does all of this mean? Well, it means that if you are planning to come to Kiev, you're going to be looking at speaking mainly Russian. That's the fact. If you are looking to come to the western part of the country, you're going to be mainly speaking Ukrainian. But if Ukraine is going to be just one of the places in your tour of the places that you're going to be visiting, then in that case, I think it's worth learning Russian more, because Russian is a much more versatile language. If you know Russian, you can get around in Ukraine, Russia, a lot of other countries, the former Soviet Union countries, lots of other places you can really get around it. So it's a question of what's more important to you. If you are planning to come and only stay in the western part of the country, in that case it's a lot more worth it to basically study Ukrainian. But if you're planning to stay in the capital, if you're planning to travel around to the west to the east of the country, to the south, just all around, in that case I don't really see a point of studying Ukrainian, because as far as I'm concerned, it's a very localized language, right? It's not like you learn Russian and you end up basically having the ability to, you have pretty much half of Europe open to you, or at least a big chunk of Europe open to you. Whereas if you're learning Ukrainian, you're going to be kind of limited. Now, the other thing you have to understand is that if you know Russian, Ukrainian is going to be very, very easy to learn, okay? I did not know Ukrainian initially, but then I basically, I speak Russian fluently, obviously, and for me, Ukrainian was very easy to pick up. In addition to that, Ukrainian, in my opinion, is closer to Polish than to Russian, because a lot of words are very similar to Polish, to Czech, to more of these Central European languages, as opposed to Russian, that's a little bit different. And so you have a lot of options, right? There are similar languages. It's not like you're learning one and you're going to have problems picking up the other. In my opinion, obviously Russian is a much more versatile language. It's a much more handy language for day-to-day communication. And besides, one thing you have to understand, as a foreigner, if you actually, learn Russian, you will, you can speak it freely everywhere. You're not going to be met with problems, as opposed to somebody who is like me, for instance, right? Where I only want to speak Russian. There are people here that only want to speak Russian in other parts, and people are gonna think that they don't want to speak Russian because of etc., because maybe they don't want to speak Ukrainian, or there's some biases or things like that, and that's where they're gonna have issues. But as a foreigner, if you just only learn Russian, you're gonna be okay wherever you are, because people are naturally gonna be a lot more open to foreigners as opposed to somebody who is from here originally. And so that is something you kind of have to understand. And so that is a very difficult subject to talk about, and you're gonna have a lot of conflicting opinions. You're gonna have people telling you this, you're gonna have people telling you that. But in my view, and this is somebody who's on the ground, boots on the ground and all that, I'm here in Kiev right now, in my opinion, it's a lot better that you just learn Russian. And Kiev is predominantly Russian speaking. I would say like 80% Russian, maybe 20% Ukrainian. It has changed over the years, It has changed in the past 5 years. You have young people starting to speak more and more Ukrainian. You have other kinds of people just, speaking Ukrainian out of patriotism and all that. But for the most part, if somebody is originally from Kiev, they will be speaking Russian. If they migrated from the eastern part of the country, they're going to be speaking Russian. Unless they're like really in the western part of the country, chances are they're going to be speaking Russian. Even if they're from the area surrounding the capital, they're going to be speaking Russian. So it's only little pockets, generally speaking, that are mostly going to be speaking Ukrainian. And so, in my opinion, it's not worth it unless you have really good reason to do so. And so just might as well just learn Russian and just go from there. And then you can easily pick up Ukrainian if you have the need to, all right? So that is all I wanted to clear up here from the center of Kiev in this enjoying this beautiful fall weather. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know what you think about it. Leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video.